All right, good morning. Well, I guess it's afternoon now. So good afternoon, James. Happy to have you on. For those of you listening, James Schrader is the face of Dr. Squatch soap and William Painter sunglasses. If you are a male between the ages of 18 and 34, you probably have seen these ads on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and like everywhere. They're really interesting, really entertaining ads. You probably recognize James here. He's coming on the podcast today to talk to us about how professional actors and performers can come across so natural on camera, because by far the most common thing that people run into when they start using video in their communication, whether that's recording a video and sending it to someone, or showing up on Zoom, or doing a Facebook Live, or any video format online, is they're really awkward and they're really wooden and they're not natural. And it's one of those things that I've found you can't just like use willpower to force yourself to relax and act natural, right? So he's going to be talking to us about how professional performers and actors do it and how they can look so relaxed, so natural in all different settings, in particular, especially when it's a script they've done 100 times or a scene they've done 100 times, right? So without further ado, hello, James. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, thank you for having me. I'm very flattered. You use the term professional actor multiple, and I'm like, professional. It is my job. It's how I pay rent, but that's new. And I think like kind of just the full overview as far as comfort on screen and in front of camera. I mean, I came from stand-up comedy. I've been doing comedy in San Diego for about 8 years now. And I did theater when I was younger and things like that. I've always been comfortable performing in some capacity. So I think I won that, like that was a big boost for me, or that helped me. That was a bonus. But it is weird to think of myself as a professional actor, for sure. But I think the biggest thing is it's like, you remember that scene in Anchorman or whatever, or was it Anchorman or whatever, where he's like, I don't know what to do with my hand. Like, it's the kind of thing where you've never thought about walking before, but if you're in something where you have to walk from point A to point B, you're like, how do you walk? I don't know how to. And that happens to everybody. That happens, and that's where it's like just being there. And it's hard. It's not easy. Like nobody, I had some natural ability, just because I probably from all the stand-up comedy shows and things like that. But it also took the right people on set, the right writers to write for, for my voice. I mean, everything that I've done, there's been teams of writers. I get to have input on that too. And it's very much my voice. I haven't really had to do much that wasn't. We did a couple characters on a Dr. Squatch ad, the Melvin Gordon one, if you ever saw that one, which was more of like an art piece. It didn't really work as an ad because it was like 7 minutes long or something. It was like one of those like 30 for 30 like spoofs, but it was really fun. But that, like, I got to play a bunch of characters. But I think I come to it. So it's like, what's the silver bullet to this? It's like, well, I think I had a bunch of luck because I've always been a kid that wanted attention and was like performing.
Yeah.
So that's where I started.
It's interesting.
But we can go down the list and kind of I'll give my input on everything. But I also am the first one to say, I don't know what I'm talking about. And it's a lot of failure. And then you do the line 25 times. And then finally something like, I have a buddy that's on set. He's a writer of mine. He's my best friend. And he's a writer that's written on almost everything I've done. And he literally will see in my eyes, because he knows me so well, that like I'm getting in my head, I'm doing stuff. And he'll pull his phone out. And just in the middle of set, you won't even know what's about to happen. You'll just be on set. And then he'll just play fart noises. Because it's like about comfort. It's about everybody calm down, because you can feel the energy between the actor, between the guy holding the sound boom and his arms getting tired because we've done 5 takes or whatever, and then the guy behind the camera and the director, and there's some guy that's a producer that's like all he's doing is looking at his watch going, we got to get this scene, we got to do the next setup because we want to get that one done before lunch, and done it. So you got all this like weird pressure there. You got the guy behind the camera, the lighting guy, the sound guy, and then like the more you do, if you fail, you mess up a line, somebody messes up their cue, something doesn't, and it's like there's tension, and that's so hard to get through, to just deliver the line, be here, act like I'm a person, so that's something that I find is a huge thing, is that I have a friend usually on set with me that when he feels that thing and he sees it in me that I'm getting jittery, he'll just fire off a fart noise and everybody laughs and calms down.
It's so interesting. So I hadn't quite, understood or appreciated, right, that dynamics of what are happening in the room. when you're being filmed like that. I imagine it's one of those places where once you like make some mistakes and get in your head and start doubting yourself, I imagine that can really get out of hand, can it?
It can. It definitely can. And that's where something like I work on such small stuff. Like on the biggest shoot I've ever been on was our first probably William Painter ad. And we had like a crew of 7 or 8, plus a couple writers on set, plus the director, plus the sound guy. Yeah, maybe the sound guy. And like that was big to me. That was like, gosh, this is all for me to say these stupid things. Like it was weird. And I look at that and I'm like, I can't even imagine what it's like to be an actual actor on a movie set
Yeah, right.
where you're making, where you have, like Transformers. We're running through downtown. There's cues happening in the green screens that you can't see, yet you're supposed to react. And there's going to be an explosion. It takes them 3 days to set up all these fake explosions and all this stuff for you to travel 400 feet down the street. And if you mess up your line, like the pressure, like I mess up my line, it's one line. And that's it. Hey, start over. I take the bar of soap from here and I pull it down and then I say the line and I pull the bar of soap back up. But you look at like those huge sets and those huge productions. I'm like, if you mess up a line, there's like 300 people that are like, what the, come on,
Yeah.
So I don't even know how to deal with that pressure. I can't even imagine what that does feel like.
Yeah.
But it will build up on you even when there's only, on the smallest shoots. We just did a thing for William Painter for our Black Friday stuff. We just shot it up in north of like San Luis Obispo out in the country. And there was like one guy, there was 2 of us, there was 2 production guys and me. It was like the camera guy, a guy that works at William Painter, one of my good buddies, my boss, and myself. And we're just on a hill and we were racing the sunset. So the sun going down was kind of like this is our timeline. We're in that golden hour. We only got so much time to shoot, but even that gets stressful. And even that, need to take a moment and breathe and stuff like that. So I find it's all about just finding like, how do I calm down? How can I just be here with the camera? How do I look through the camera? I don't look at the camera. That's something I don't know where I picked it up, but my goal is to literally, I tell myself I'm looking through the lens at the person on the other side of their screen. Like I'm looking at a person and I'm just talking. My whole mentality is, and I've written this on scripts before, where there's like, what I've gone through entire scripts and I'll write like with every line, like, what is my intent? What is the intent of this line? And there's things where it's like, are you talking about the value props for the product itself? Is it, it's made of titanium, it's, lifetime guarantee, things like that. And it's like, okay, like if I was just saying this to a friend, like, what am I doing? What are my eyes doing? Like, where am I coming from with this information? And this is a weird one. And I've actually used this one, and it's kind of a mantra that I've kept, because I wrote it early on with one of the first scripts that I did, like first or second commercials I did. And it literally was just emit the light of truth. That's your job. Like that's what the underlying just mantra of everything that comes out of your mouth is like, if these things are true, emit the light of truth. You are just shining bright to anybody that's watching. You should, be happy about what you're saying, because you should feel like you're sharing great information with a friend. And I think that really helped me just be in a good place of like, if you're just trying to get okay, I got to get this line out. I got to get these words out. And sometimes you run into stuff, especially like we got, aerospace grade titanium, Japanese polar, like it's a lot of that. And it's hard to get the warmth through that, because there's nothing warm about Japanese polarized nylon lenses, titanium. Like it sounds very technical, but you gotta be a person and be like, it's almost, and I really do. I feel like I'm telling my friend, like, dude, it's Japanese polarized nylon. It's really cool stuff. It's practically indestructible. Like, I'm excited to tell you. Like that kind of, I think that's like your energy in protecting that is huge.
So you mentioned not looking at the camera lens, but rather looking through the camera lens at someone.
Right.
Do you have this nondescript someone in mind, or do you like actually picture a real human being that you've met before on the other end?
I forget where, is it Instagram or Facebook even, or even it could have been like old school MySpace, when it was just like that weird, that like outline, the silhouette of a head.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what it is. It's everybody all at once. It's just this silhouette of a person I can't really see. They're a little out of focus, and I'm just looking through and I just see a person.
Yeah, that's cool. So I experienced this actually, was it last Monday, a little while ago. I like totally goofed up on a video I was sending to a prospect, and that really set me off my game. And
Mhm.
literally for the rest of the afternoon, every single video I recorded sucked, and I had to re-record it a few times. Normally, because I've done so many of these things, right? I do tons of these little videos.
Mhm.
Usually, one take. Once in a while, I have to do a second take. But literally every single video I took that day, 2 to 3 takes, and even at the end of the 2 to 3 takes, they still sucked. I was just so in my head and so frazzled by the early failures of the day. Other than, I guess, unexpected fart sounds, any tips for how to like reclaim that headspace when you feel you're on in a rocky place?
Um, One, I think start how you start your day to keep from getting to that.
Hmm.
I've been meditating for years, but I've been getting better at it, or at least more consistent with it. But I think that's huge. I think starting the day in a good place, because with everything else, like I've had shoots where I've had to drop my, I had to wake up at, I'm trying to think. We had one where I woke up at like 4:45, so I knew I would have an hour and a half before my daughter woke up to like get everything into the truck, get all, because some of the shoots were going off for 2 days. We're going to be on site, and it's an hour and a half away, and it's like I got to pack clothes, I got to pack my makeup stuff, I got to, because like some of these are also that small where like I just learned how to do my own very basic, like make it look like I'm not sweating,
Yeah.
but like just all these things that I needed, my boots and the different pair of boots and these 3 shirts and that thing and just, and the overnight bag because you're spending the night plus snacks plus food, Um, and so like these hectic mornings where, like at 9:30, the camera's gonna roll and you just were hectic since 5 a.m. And then you're like driving your daughter and maybe she doesn't feel like getting dressed. And you're like, we gotta go, kid. We gotta pay rent. Like, let's come on out the door. So I think protecting yourself and creating a space for yourself to have either time right beforehand to calm yourself down, to meditate. I've definitely meditated on set. I like to just stretch. I like to move my body around. I like to just like get blood flowing and remind myself that like your face can move, your arms can move, your hands can move. Just be a person. Um, and then once if something does go bad, I think after a while you do enough of them where you realize like, yeah, there's gonna a bunch are gonna be bad. You're gonna flub a word. You're gonna miss your cue. You're gonna miss your mark, like whatever. And so I think you just get more comfortable with that. I think that's everything, right? I mean, the more failure you fail in my mind, if you're gonna make it to the top, you failed all the way to the top. And so I try to just look at the failures and go, yeah, yeah, you really screwed up that line. You really screwed up that, video. And thank God there's other people there to be like, hey, let's do another. Cause I'm like, cause that's the other part is I don't know whether it's working or not. I say
Hmm.
that to every crew and every camera guy. I'm like, hey, you got to tell me, like, I don't know if that little twinkle is happening. I can't tell because I'm so in, like, I got to hit this mark. And we've had some pretty intense like choreographed scenes for Squatch and William Painter where I'm like talking, delivering information, smiling through my eyes. I'm emitting the light of truth while I'm also picking up a thing here, picking up a thing here, and I'm like handing things back and forth to other people. Something's flying in, I catch it, I toss it off screen, I catch another thing while there's a lot going on that is hard by itself, let alone delivering lines to the camera while sort of looking but not looking off. And
Yeah.
so I think you need to be okay with it. You need to just realize that like failure is going to happen. You're going to mess up lines. You're going to do things, and you're there because you hopefully were better than everyone else that auditioned or whatever. So take in mind that like they want you here to do this. They want you to succeed, and it's very stand up like too. Like the crowd wants you to succeed when you're on stage. They want you to do well. And everyone on set wants you to do well too in a shoot. So protect yourself, realize failure is going to happen. If you do get in a funk, again, fart noises work. But I think it's also like take a breather. I'll walk, I'll pace, I'll walk around the set, I'll walk away. I'll go walk, luckily we get to shoot in like in the woods and stuff. It's beautiful. So
Yeah.
I'll just, I'll go walk 500 feet that way and walk back between a setup and just kind of like calm myself, in a meditative way and things like that. But just bring yourself back to like the last one doesn't matter. This is the one that matters, which is life. Like you are here, be here now. If you want to pull a Ram Dass quote, but
Yeah.
like this is the only one that matters. Is the one that we're about to shoot. So what's the line? Look at the line. Say the line. How would you say the line? What do you feel the line? Okay, that's cool. Let's be prepared. So when they say go, I'm not worried about all that, which is hard because it creeps in because you're like, I'm screwing this whole thing up. But you don't have time for that. You got to do this set that, this line this shot, this setup, you know, like I said, there's a sound guy, a lighting guy, and a camera guy that all did their job, so you could do yours.
Yeah.
And just come into that with like, this is all that matters. Let's get through it, and protect yourself and tell them. And I've never had anyone push back. You know, there's always the one guy, the producer, that's like, you know, we got time, we got to do this. Come on, come on, come on. And that's the only one that we really will get pushback from, because the rest of them are like, we want this to look really good. So take that moment. I definitely always like, I close my eyes before almost every take. I take a deep breath. I say the line in my head. I try to. And then even when I say action, I find myself taking a beat. And a lot of times I will have my eyes closed, and I'll take a beat, and I'll just take a nice big breath and then go. So I find it helps too. Am I answering these questions or am I just talking?
No, that's good, man. It's all good.
Okay.
Here's a question for you.
Sure.
And I'll set up with some context first. So there's an exercise I've had people do before where they'll show me a video email they've done. And I work with a lot of salespeople who are like creating, you know, videos talking about their product, trying to snag a prospect's interest. And, you know, the video will be a little bit awkward, a little bit wooden, a little bit not very natural, very robotic, very salesy, very pitchy. Okay. And I'll watch the video and I'll say, okay, great. Question, what does your company do actually? And then they'll explain what their company does. And the tone of voice they use when they're just casually explaining what their company does is drastically different than the tone of voice they use when they're explaining to a prospect what their company does.
Right.
Any tips on how to like control and like force your voice to use the tone you want it to use? Because a lot of times I think our default tone when we're on camera is, I don't know, it's different, right?
Yeah. It's as soon as there is something that's as soon as the camera turns on, and I don't think I mean, I think this happens to me too, but as soon as the camera turns on, people change. And it's because that, like you said, that same person, you watch the video and you're like, all right, well, go ahead, tell me all that again. And just to you, not being recorded, but in a meeting or something, to you, they're like, it flows better. They're more natural. They smile in certain places. Like it comes across really well. And you're like, wow, why can't you? And it's because as soon as that red light or as soon as they say action, it's just like, okay, so we make balloons. And then, you know, it's this like inner judgment, you know, it's all this baggage of like, people are going to see this. So I'm not a big like practicer. Some people like with comedy or even scripts, some people practice in the mirror and things like that. I think I don't know what to do about that, because I didn't realize it was such a thing until recently, when like I've worked on scripts for other things, and then they, you know, I see them do a casting call, and I've actually even reached out and they've been like, hey, do you know anybody? I'm like, oh, this comic's amazing. This guy's amazing. And in my mind on stage, they are comfortable. They can deliver information. They're, you know, they're charismatic and stuff. And then as soon as the camera turns on, this guy that's on stage that performs 5 nights a week and looks totally comfortable, as soon as the camera's on, it's that he's stiff as a board. He's not moving. His, you know, is like his whole body is turned into a statue. So I don't know how to break through that. I think repetition. I mean, I think, like, again, fail constantly, go do it and be uncomfortable. And the more times you do something that makes you uncomfortable, the more comfortable you will be with that thing. Right. Yep. So I think that's something where you just have to like put in the reps, do it, remind yourself you're there for a reason. They liked what you had to bring to the table. And also, you know, there's this weird, I bring a little like nihilistic stuff into it. Like, none of this matters. None of this matters. Like, it matters, but it doesn't matter. Like, you're going to go home. And if, you know, I don't know, there's enough going on in the world that it's like, oh, this thing, especially like, I mean, I do ads. So like for them, they're like, it matters, man. We need sales. We got to sell soap. We got to sell sunglasses. Like, a whole bunch of people that work here depend on getting a paycheck, and we need to sell this so we have a successful business. So there is pressure there, and I get it does matter. But at the same time, you're like, big picture, just be there for the experience. Give yourself, you know, create a safe space for you to just relax and be in it. And acknowledge too, like, I laugh all the time. I look around and I'll say this to like people on set, and like we'll get done with a scene or something, and it'll be like, this is our job. Like, we're standing in a field surrounded. We got a mic. We got a mic boom. We got some lighting stuff. We got a camera over there. There's a cooler with some waters and a thing of snacks. Like, this is our job. Like, take a breath. This isn't, you know, it's not brain surgery. This isn't life and death. Just be here, take a breath, give it, you know, try again.
Yeah. No, I think I would agree with that, right? Understanding, you know, the relative smallness of any one video that you're sending, right? A lot of times, when I was doing like a lot more prospecting, sending a lot more videos,
Hmm.
um, I would remind myself, the odds are this fucker isn't even going to open the email and he's not even going to watch the video. So, it doesn't
Yeah,
matter
this thing
what
that
I
you
say.
hated yourself. You shot it. You shot 20 different versions of it. You hated all of them. You finally did one you feel good about, and then 95% of the people that get it not even going to open the email.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or it bounces and you're like, great, I just
yeah,
spent 15 minutes for an email's going
yeah.
to bounce. So I think sometimes reminding yourself in the grand scheme of things, yeah, this doesn't actually matter. Whatever it is, it doesn't actually matter in the grand scheme of things. So
I,
that's
th- I think
good.
imagine a friend on the other side. That's been the biggest help for me. I think is that like I said, emit the light of truth, which means you're positive. You're happy to be doing this. You're happy to be giving this information. Like and especially if it's your business, you should be enthusiastic. Like you should almost be toning your enthusiasm down so you don't look like a crazy person. But if it's your thing and you really believe in it, you're like, no, if you use like I 100% believe in Dr. Squatch soap from the standpoint of like it is really good soap. It is high quality, all natural soap. They say it's for men. It doesn't matter. Like the scents might be a little manly, some of them, but like I have friends that are a bunch of female comics I know that I've given soap to, and they love it. And like I've been using it it's the only soap I've used for 3 years now. And it's like, it's just good soap. My skin is happier. My body is happier. My face doesn't break out as like, and knowing that and being able to believe in that, which is something that I learned, like that was the first product I did. And then I did I got a bunch of offers after that for stuff. And it's like, I wouldn't use that. I wouldn't do that. And at first they're like, yeah, but money. And you're like, hey, money's good. I'm broke and going through a divorce and things are tough. And I got a kid. So money's good. But like, I don't, I can't, I can't lie and say that's a good thing. Like I can't lie and be like, I love using this because I don't and wouldn't use it. So that was something I really had to get, come to terms with myself. Is like, you're going to say no a lot. And that's actually a good thing.
Hmm.
Say no, because if you don't believe in it, you don't. So that's a beauty of like, if it's your product and you believe in it, your enthusiasm should shine through. You should
Yeah.
just, think about that. Like, what am I going to help people with this? Is this whatever this thing I have? I made an app, I made a hat, I made soap, I made whatever my product is, a tool for teams and in businesses. I'm going to make their lives better.
Yeah.
That's exciting. You're handing somebody in a weird way, like, I mean, it depends on what your product is, but you're handing them a smile. When they buy this product, they're literally, if it's a thing for, teams that work together, you're giving them time. You're literally being like, you will be more effective if you use this. And I'm excited to give you time back in your life. You will be more productive. You will, your skin will be healthier. Your eyes will be better protected because we use these lenses and because, the frames are this. And we also have a lifetime guarantee. Like, you don't have to worry about it. There's something beautiful about the fact, like with the William Painters, that's like if you buy a pair of these, that's the last pair of sunglasses you will ever have to buy. Like you're done. You never have to think about and it sounds like who thinks about sunglasses? Well, everybody, every time they need them because they bought a $5 pair or whatever. And so there's power in that to be like, I feel really good about sharing this information. So if you're on a set and you don't feel good, or if you have a thing that you're doing that and you don't feel good, that's kind of a nice judge, especially if it's your business or your thing. Like if you feel like you're lying to them, you might want to question what you're doing. You might want to question whether you should have taken that gig or you should, do you believe in this? Or are you doing it? What are the reasons that you're doing this
Yeah.
project? So,
It's actually interesting. It kind of mirrors something a sales coach of mine was talking to me about recently, of just really connecting with the, emotional side of things. And that,
mhm,
why is it exciting for your prospect to take this meeting with you? Why would it be exciting for your prospect to work with you? What
yeah,
kind of excitements are under the surface that made them agree to the meeting? What kind of excitements are under the surface that would make them, look forward to working with you and prioritize working with you over things like, a lot of times, is at least in my world as sellers, we get so focused on the thing, right? The thing we're selling. And even
right.
sometimes, we get focused on the benefits of the thing we're selling, but we kind of tune out of or forget to tune into the emotional world. And
Yeah.
I think an answer to how do you make yourself more interesting on camera is probably mentally before you record the video to really tune into that excitement and be like, why will my prospect be excited to get this video? And why will this person be excited to buy this pair of sunglasses, right? And really tune into
Yeah,
that.
for sure. And I think that's the natural part that comes through is like, that's where, like I said, if you're lying about it, now you're really acting. That sounds hard. If
Yeah.
you're actually excited about it, that should be like, you should be reading your stuff and be like, this is great. Like, I built this whole thing. I'm going to help people. I'm going to make their lives better and give them more time in their life or better communication with their friends or did it, whatever the thing is. And take that and carry that in and really allow that to fill you with like, I get to do this. I get to share this good stuff with people. Like, and we're all bombarded with so much stuff. Like everywhere we look, we're like, we're going to make you, skinnier and your dick's going to be bigger and your hair's going to be da-da-da and your eyes and your food and your friends and everyone's going to love you more. And it's like constantly like, everything's going to be better. Everything. So you got to get through all of that too, which is like, most of it's like BS. And you got to, so like you want to connect on a person. And that's why I try to look through at a person. Like in my mind, like there is a person sitting there that's like, huh, I never heard this or I haven't seen this or I haven't thought about soap before. Like, huh. Oh, that seems good. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I never knew that about soap. Really? That stuff does that? Like, huh. Like, and that's where I look at like, talk to a friend, look through, and you're just excited to tell your friend about this thing because you want to help them have a better life. And I think there's a lot of power in that.
Yeah. Something else I see parallels between, right? Obviously, in your work, you say the same lines over and over again. But for the listeners of this show, you might be a sales rep delivering the same pitch over Zoom and a product demo over and over. You might be a sales development representative saying the same type of things in a video message you send to an inbound lead. There's a lot of times professionally that you say the same stuff over and over again, and you want it to sound like the first time you've ever said it, but it's actually the 53rd time you've said it this week.
Yeah.
Any tips on how to make it sound like the first time when it's not?
You run into that as a comic, right? People don't realize the people go see comedy shows and they see a comic or like you see a Netflix special and people are like, wow, like some people, it blows my mind. Some people go to comedy shows and still think a comic, like they look up, they're like, he just came up with all of that, like right on the top of his head. And it's like, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. There were probably moments where he was in the zone, he was in the vibe, he was finding his flow and he knew that, and something happened and he said a line and that might've been, one thing in that 5-minute chunk might have been totally out of the blue. But if you watch a Netflix special, that comic has told those jokes hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Hundreds. And I think one of the biggest things is you still have to be excited about it. You still have to find it funny. And every now and then as a comic, you'll tell a joke so many times. It's like, this works. And it will like, oh, it works. And all of a sudden like, it stops working. Mm-hmm. And it's because you lose interest in the joke. And they can sense that. So I think that falls back on, if you're saying it for the 500th time, is the message still true? Does it still ring true that like, I'm here to help you. I'm here to share information with you. I'm excited to do so. Because whether it's the first time or the 500th time, if those things are still true, then you can tap into it. Yeah. And that's where I think it could come across where you're not just reciting. Because I mean, as a comic, every comic has done a show. And like, I know my set and I've done shows where you're on cruise control because the thing happened before you got in a fight with a friend or your girlfriend or your, and that was 20 minutes before you even got to the club. And now you're at the club and you're just all this, like, oh man, rent's due or the thing. And oh man, last night my kid was up all night and I didn't get any sleep. And then today I had that thing and all this comes down on you. And sometimes you get to a show and you'll just go into this autopilot mode where you'll come off stage and be like, I guess I just did a set. I mean, I said all the words. I was standing there. I said the words. They laughed where they were supposed to, hopefully. But like, and that's part of it. It's like you can fall into that, and that's dangerous because there are comics out there that build time and then never like they just autopilot. All they want to do is hit all their biggest jokes. They want to crush and they want, which is your job, which is your goal. But at the same time, like, I think I never say a joke the same, or say this. I never say a joke the same twice. Like, and I think that goes for even lines. Like we'll have, we'll be shooting a scene. Okay, this is a setup. We're going to punch in on you for this thing. You're going to hold the bar up or the glasses up or put them on or whatever the thing is. And this is, you have like 2 sentences to say. And I will run it. They'll be like, all right, action. And I know that like, okay, this is a straight cut. Like, I can say it. And then I'll be like, hey, I'm just going to go. And they're like, all right, cool. And I will say it this. I'll be like, The sky is blue and the water is warm. The sky is blue and the water's warm. The sky is blue and the water is warm. Like, find it, play with it. If you have, especially if you're making videos, like, you shouldn't just do it the one way. You don't know what's, and that also comes down to, like, once you're editing things too, you know, the way it was written should be like, hey, you should be really big on this part. But the momentum of everything leading up to that actually worked better when you went, the sky is blue and the water's warm. Like, you were, you know, maybe that's the time, you know, that's the take they use, because like the edit before brought the energy up, and this was all of a sudden like a moment, you know? So I think, not that, I mean, that kind of plays with the, you know, how do you do it 500 times, but believing in it, connecting with the emotion that was there the first time you said it, the 10th time you said it, the 500th time you said it. If you still believe in it, and if you don't, go reimagine the line. You know, jokes are never done. No comic is ever done with a joke. So many comics, you know, they go film their Netflix special, and 2 months later, when they're on the road before the special comes out, they're telling that joke, and their brain spits out this beautiful tag, and they're like, oh, I wish I had that. I wish that was on the, like they like rework a joke, 2 words, one thing changes, one, just the way you say it, the up, the down, the whatever, and that can change everything. That's, you know, so I think that's part of it, is like, if you're getting tired of it, rework it, figure out a new exciting way to say it. Because if you still believe in the info, if you still believe with the message, you can hold on to that and find that and go with it.
So actually, there's parallels here that I didn't think about initially too, between, you know, it sounds like comedy and even cold calling, because in both those situations, the outcome you get is dependent on minor variations in the word and the voice and the toning and the pitch and the timing. And you can do things that you feel the same, but get very different outcomes because there was a minor hair-like difference in the way you delivered it. So it's interesting. So part of your solution is to have micro varieties within the general macro pattern you keep repeating, and that helps keep it fresh.
And that's whether, if you're shooting a video, you know, feel it out. And what's funny is I'll say the same line almost the same way, you know, 3-4 times, and then I'll kind of mix it up, and I'll say it in ways like, well, literally I'll be like, okay, and usually almost pretty much when they're like, all right, we got it, we feel good, I'll be like, all right, great, let me do one more totally over the top. Let me take this like way too far. Because when you're performing, this is whether you're on stage, like anytime before I go on stage, I usually do jumping jacks, I stretch, and I move my body. Because if you don't let yourself know and remind yourself that, like, hey, all of this is all here. My hands, look at, my hands can do this. Like at anytime I want, my hands can just be out and back and forward. You know, my body can do it. My leg can be up here, whatever. My face can get big and small and open and close. Because as soon as you step on stage, or as soon as that camera turns on, whatever you think you're doing just got compressed by like 60%. I've been on stage and thinking like I'm doing these big motions and being very physical. And then I see a video of it. I'm like, oh, like I was like, huh. Because there's a bunch of people watching you in a crowd, or there's a camera on you with a crew, and they're all just staring at you like, do your thing, monkey. Like, come on, you know? And so that's something like, remind your physical self that you're here, you're capable, you can do all these things. Oh, I went down that tangent and totally forgot where we were originally. I started moving my body around and getting excited.
Well, where I started the conversation was around micro changes within the general macro pattern to make it feel fresh,
right,
or to not have it get stale.
Right. So like, yeah. So with the little adjustments. So one, be free to make the adjustments, play with all of it. If you're doing it live and direct, like, you know, if you're on a sales call with somebody and you're cold calling or something, that's where do jumping jacks before you get on the call. You should not get on the call tired or lethargic, or like your heart rate shouldn't be resting when you get on the call. Now, at the same time, if you shouldn't be like, hey, good morning, thanks, when they're just sitting there, like when they, you know, so you want to meet them wherever they are, like slightly above them though. You want to take them with you, not one, you don't want to come in way below them, and you don't want to come in way behind. So you want to like get yourself ready to be blood flowing, you're ready to be here, and then see where they are. And in my mind, you should always be just a little bit above. You should be a little more enthusiastic than they are. And I think that's a huge help, because you see comics that go on stage and the crowd is hot and they just walked from the back. They weren't paying attention to the comic before they came up on stage all low key. And the crowd is like,
yeah,
tell us a joke. We're so ready for another joke. Like, give us the joke. And then they're like, oh, what should I talk about? And then the crowd's like, oh, wait, what? Wait, but we were ready. You're not ready? We're ready. And I think that's the same thing on a sales call is like, if you come in really low, they're going to be like, this guy's not even excited about his own thing. Like, why are we even here? This guy doesn't want, this guy looks like he doesn't even want to be here. And if you're too excited, like, this guy's not reading the room. Like, this guy, we want to hear about it, but can you slow down? You know, which I find I feel like I talk too fast. I feel like I talk too much. So I like try to catch myself all the time too. But I think,
especially in a sales call, that can come across, inauthentic. So it is something you gotta be careful.
Yeah. If you're like always in full blown sales pitch mode, high energy, it's like nobody, that's like, it's like, sounds weird. That's like you're walking somewhere and the guy with the clipboard's like, hey, will you do this? We're going to save it. And you're like, calm down. Why do I feel accosted? I get it. You're saving the world, but I feel weird. I feel like I should back up. Yeah. So yeah, read the room, read the audience, find their vibe and just lift it up and take it with you. I mean, that's the best part. The best thing about comedy and stuff is like they'll go with you as long as you're real with them, as long as they don't smell fear. And that's real. Audiences smell fear. If they think you're not confident in what you're doing, they're like, I don't think I can trust you to just let go. Cause that's really what I think a sales pitch, an ad, a comedy show, the person watching is just if you do it right, like Rogan talks about this, where he thinks like a comedy show, it's hypnosis. It's an entire group of people becoming one audience, letting you think for them. They're no longer thinking. They're just experiencing your thoughts. And I think an ad is the same way. And I think a sales pitch we've done right is the same way too, of like, you want to get them on board where they're like, I trust this guy. I'm going to go with him. I don't know where he's going, but he seems excited. He seems kind. He seems, he's got a good vibe about him, a good energy. And okay, like what does he have to say? I want to know, like, where if they don't trust you, or if you're coming in, you're like, okay, like you're not organized, you're really low energy, you're way too high energy. Like if you're not a person they want to stand next to, you're already lost. You're already lost.
Yeah. That's so interesting. Actually, it's a lot of work I've been doing in my own sales journey recently, is trying to get to that point. Not really the topic of this episode, but getting to the point where people are willing to trust you and just be taken along for a ride. I think you're right. It is a certain type of hypnosis where people, if you establish that right trust and credibility, they are willing to just like open up their mind to you and say, okay, you take my mind where you want it to go. I trust you're going to take it good places.
And again, I think that totally in the cold calling into sales videos, to your posts. I mean, is where this sounds, your social media posts and things like that. I mean, it's part of it. Like, are they willing to hand over control?
Yeah.
For just a moment. Because if they're not, if they feel any reluctancy and they don't feel safe with you, they don't want to buy your thing. I'm not going to buy a thing from a guy I don't trust.
Yeah. So it's fascinating. One last set of questions here. You can answer one of them or both of them if you have an answer for both. So one is, do you have any tips for how to make yourself feel less nervous? And the alternate question would be, do you have any tips for appearing confident on the outside, despite the fact that you can't control how nervous you feel on the inside? Right? Kind of two alternate.
All of us doing that and faking that every single day of our life.
To an extent, I think.
So the first one, I don't think you shouldn't be nervous. You should be nervous every time before you go on stage as a comic. I think you should. I'm nervous every single time. I'm nervous every single time at a shoot. Now, once you get in the rhythm of a shoot, I think like the first couple takes are definitely probably the most nervous ones, because like you said, I spent an hour and a half getting my kid ready, packing the car, driving, dropping the kid off, I'm here. I haven't eaten. I've had coffee. Okay, we're on set. Oh, they immediately want to start shooting. Oh, I thought I'd have more time. Like there's all this stuff that you gotta kind of like get all that baggage out of the way to just be here and do the thing. But you should be nervous. If you aren't nervous, you don't care. And if you don't care, that'll come through. You should be nervous. Now nervous isn't a bad thing. Nervous is, most people, like I'm a pilot. I got my pilot's license when I was about 25. I flew gliders before that. And I've had moments in airplanes, just like everybody in a car, where you have some close call, right? Something happens, some close call, something freaks you out. You have to swerve or do something. And you'll find most people will become in a heightened state and they will focus more and they will do what they need to do in the moment. And like in airplanes, I've had the same thing where like, um, this only happened with instructors because they do stuff to you from time to time, just make sure you can handle like emergency situations. And I had an instructor on 2 different check rides, where at one point we're like in the pattern of the airport flying around, and he literally was like, "Oh, your engine just quit," and he just pulled my throttle back. And he's like, "What are you gonna do?" Best landing I've ever had, smoothest, no engine, no thing. You got to look, okay, how far am I going to go? Am I going to do this? What's my airspeed? What's my rated descent? I'm going to look, okay, I'm going to turn base early because I don't have any extra power. So I'm going to stay a little high. Your brain's working through the checklist. You actually have, usually in airplanes, you actually have a checklist. So you're like, this is my airspeed. This is my flap setting. I'm going to tell the tower, if there's a tower, that like, hey, this is Cessna so-and-so, and we're doing a simulated, engine out emergency landing, da-da-da. So you have all these things that you need to do while you're watching your airspeed, while you're looking for traffic, while you're doing, and it's like the nerves should focus you.
Mhm.
They should be something that you can rely on because you care. This does matter right now. If it didn't, you wouldn't be nervous. And in those moments, the more nervous I've been, I feel like the better the performance has been, whether it was in the airplane, in a car where something happens, like it's, I think you can use that to
Yeah.
actually do a better job. Because if you walk in, I've had a shot, I got cocky like 3 commercials in. I was like, I can do this. What are we doing? Look how successful that last Squatch ad was. We got 50 million views. What do you got for me? Let's do it. And I walked in thinking I could do, and like I was flubbing lines and I was taking too long. And like that was like a real wake up of like, okay, no. 1, you need to prepare for everything every time. 2, you are not good at this. You suck. Start there.
Huh.
You should be nervous. You should want this to go really well. You shouldn't just think you're going to walk in and nail it. So
I like that.
embrace the nerves, look at them. And I think it's kind of like, it's almost like meditation. Like it's not that you're trying not to think. It's that you're trying to not allow the thoughts to overtake the space, right? Like, your goal with meditation, people are like, well, I can't empty my head. It's like, it's not really about that. It's more about like, I'm going to focus so much just on my breathing. And as soon as I create the void, all the thoughts come in: taxes, kid, ex-wives, loneliness, work shit, da da da, and that's where you just go, oh, hey, you're a thought. Yeah, I am nervous about that. Okay, have a nice day. Yeah. I got to pay that bill. Okay, that's good. We're going to let that go over there. Like, acknowledge the tension, acknowledge the fear, acknowledge, the nervousness, and just take it and go package it up and look at it and go, yeah, I'm nervous. Why? Because I care. Because I want this to go well, because this is my job, or because I'm selling things and it's a survival of my business and the success of, my family. And take that and go, I am nervous because I care, because I want this to be successful. And you take that and you go, thank you, nervousness, for reminding me how important this is, and just put it right there.
Yeah.
And go.
Well, the way I'm starting to see it now that, I've listened to you here, is that nervousness is a signal that you are mentally in a heightened state. And being in a heightened state is going to make you do better. So it's actually a good thing, right? It's like a sweet, I now have evidence that I'm in a heightened state and my brain is gearing up for action, which is a good thing. Now, yes, nervousness doesn't feel good. It kind of sucks that it feels like an unpleasant emotion. But the fact that you have that signal of nervousness is evidence your brain is moving to a heightened state and you're primed to perform. So you should welcome that feeling of like, check, now we're ready to go.
Yeah.
Rather than
Acknowledge
running
it.
away from it.
Yeah, acknowledge, acknowledging it and stewing over it are 2 different things. You can't just sit in it. Like, and I think this goes for life. I had a conversation with a buddy of mine last night. And today is like day 2 after the election that we're recording this. So we're still like waiting on the tallies to come in.
Hmm.
And we were talking, and we were talking late. We were talking at like 9:30 at night or something. And I was like, hey man, how was your day? And he was just like, I'm just watching this thing unfold, dude. I'm just terrified about the country. And it's like, dude, like, who knows what's going to happen? And da, 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 da. And I was like, you've been just watching everything all day, like every, he's like, yeah, man, I just, like, just trying to pay attention and really know what's going on. And I'm just terrified that, and like his anxiousness level was through the roof. And he's like, what'd you do? And I was like, dropped my kid off, hit a bucket of golf balls, came home. I wrote, I had a meeting. I did this. I went surfing. Now I'm watching a movie. And he's like, do you even care, dude? Like, the world is like, this is happening right now. Like, you're playing golf. And I'm like, yeah, because what you did doesn't change the outcome. You didn't just like, I look at it and go, I have a daughter. I'm terrified about her future. I'm terrified about the planet. I'm terrified about all the things that everyone's terrified about. And I want there to be change for people to have better lives and more opportunity and things to be more fair across the board and all these things, and my daughter's future and her to have opportunity, and her to have health care, and her to have safety. But if you just sit there and tune into that anxiety, and that's all you do is tune into it and just go, am I anxious? I am anxious. Am I anxious? I am anxious. Is there a reason to be anxious? There is a reason to be anxious. Then I'm definitely, and like,
Yeah.
you're not productive. You're not in a good position to execute anything if you're just at a 10 when the anxious, it should be there. We should all, I feel like I suffer from a low level of depression most of the time. I suffer from a low level of anxiety that spikes and does stuff in just everyday things. But it's like, if that's all you listen to, then that's only going to go up. So it's like, again, acknowledge it and go, you're here for a reason, because I should be a little worried. I should be a lot worried. I should be worried about my daughter's future. I should be worried about my future. I should be worried about my mother's health. I should be worried about the corona thing. I should be worried about health in general. I should be exercising more. And you acknowledge it all and go, this is all real. What can I do with it? How can I act? Because just sitting here watching, and I feel bad because I think a lot of Americans are going through this right now. It's like, if you just sat home and watched the news all day, all you did, it doesn't matter which side you were on of this scenario, all you did was lose your mind all day long. And all they did was keep you tuned in. They just gave you the little pellet that made your brain go nuts, because that's what the media does. Doesn't matter what side you're on. It's what the media does. They got to keep you watching. It's all clickbait, media advertising,
Yeah.
And it's like, if you tune into that, that's all you got is the anxiety, and you're not in a place to produce. So what can you do? What can you do for your own mental health? What can you do for your own state, your own family, your household? Go clean, turn it off, clean your house. When you sit down, you'll feel better because you have a clean, less chaotic house. You can't control what's happening outside right now, but inside, this is a beautiful oasis of my world that I can be proud of and calm in and secure in right here, which then I think allows you to then go out in your world, in your life, and go, how do I make the little changes I can make to make a better world? Because just sitting here watching it, I'm not affecting anything. I'm just sitting in it. So acknowledge it, put it on the shelf, be productive because you care.
It's cool. And what you're, kind of advocating here, right? It's certainly easier said than done. This ability to observe it, give it its space, but not let it like totally take over, right? And actually, one of the last guests we had on this show, a guy named Sean Webb, he wrote a book called Mind Hacking Happiness, like best friggin' books you'll ever read. But he has this one tiny little hack to kind of distance yourself from the emotional firestorm that's going on and accomplish something similar to what you described of observing it, noting it, but then not letting it take over. And his simple suggestion is your self-talk should change from I am stressed, I am freaking out, to the me is stressed, the me is
the observer.
Like it just that simple change of words really makes you feel like you are an observer looking down on the me who's angry, the me who's anxious.
Yeah. You are. You're the whoever the I, and when you say that, that's the thing inside. That's where the meditation comes in. That's where things like that, where you can separate and realize like, oh, like I'm observing the thought. I'm not the thought.
Yeah. So cool.
And I think that would make so many people sleep better at night. Right. Is it like I am not the thought? Because we all have all the thoughts. We all have good thoughts. We all have bad thoughts. I'm a white male of privilege that has definitely, I'm saying that as if because I said this, I was like, where are you going with this? This is touchy. I'm racist. I'm racist. I don't want to be racist. I've had racist thoughts. I've been on the street and been worried for no reason because of a person, because of what I grew up in and what society has shown me. Like, this is what these people are. This is what these people are. Like I understand that now more than ever, but I am not those thoughts.
Yeah.
I am the person that goes, oh, I remember. That thought. I don't like that I had that thought. Why did I have that thought? What can I do? Like, I don't like how I reacted to that situation. Why did I react that way? How can I react differently? Like, if you're not processing the thoughts, if you're just, I look at the world and I think there are people, and it terrifies me, that just go, something happens, they react, and that's the end of it. They just go through their entire life just being like, yep, I handled that perfectly. I handled that perfectly. Everything I do is perfect. I don't think about any of it. I just react. That's it. And I'm like, I I don't even know how that works. Cause I feel like I leave the grocery store and I'm like, was I kind enough to the lady that checked me out? Like I could have been nicer, I guess. Was that I smiled back, right? I don't know. Okay. Like you should be processing almost all of your reactions and being like, could I do that better? Could I make that person that I had that interaction with feel better about just life in general? Like process, think.
Yeah,
And I
yeah,
think all of that too, like you processing those things, I think lends itself to acting, lends itself to portraying a thing or being enthusiastic and sale. I mean, I consider like if you're doing sales pitches and it like it's acting in a way. We're all acting every day, right? This is what was I forget Shakespeare's quote, but
sure.
we're all mere act. The world is a stage and we're all mere act. You know, that's true. Every day we wake up and we decide what, you know, you run into your neighbor that you weren't planning on seeing. Your brain makes a very quick thing of like, what, you know, you were worried about some stuff earlier, but you just ran into your neighbor. Are you about to bring them into that bullshit? Or are you just going to put on the like, hey, good day, Carl. Good seeing you. Yeah, things are great. You know, like, yeah, you put it on when, you know, because sometimes you do. So process it, breathe deep. None of this matters, and it all matters.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool.
So,
All right. Well, for those listening, as soon as this video ends, the first thing you got to do is go Google Dr. Squatch commercials. If you happen to not be in the demographic they target, you probably have not had the pleasure of seeing some of James' commercials.
and by the way, everyone's in the demographic for that one because it's really good quality soap.
Oh, yeah? Oh,
They don't
cool.
pay me any extra to say this stuff on social media or anything like that, but I believe in it and I wouldn't do the ads if I didn't. It is really good soap. Your skin will be happier. There is no like you can't really go wrong if you read the name of the scent because people ask me this, they're like, which one should I get? I'm like, the one that sounds good to you. If you think you would eat it, don't eat it, but get it and clean your body with it.
That's cool. Well, in addition to that, how else can people get in contact with you?
The best way to see what I'm up to is go to jamesschrader.com. James Schrader, SCHRADER. If you Google it, it'll fix it for you. JamesSchrader.com. And on my website, I have merch that will be launching soon. I have a podcast that will be launching soon. I have updates for shows I'm trying to put together. You know, depending on how everything goes health wise and whatever, I'm trying to put together like a 2021 comedy tour. So there'll be updates on that, but go put your email in. I rarely email blast you. So you won't get pegged with like a bunch of like weekly, like, hey, it's James, go buy stuff. No, I will only hit you with quality information. Yeah, jamesschrader.com. Thank you so much for having me. This was fun. Like, I feel like this helped me because I just got to process all the stuff that I do or think I do when I'm acting and doing stuff. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Crazy how it works that way. No, I'm glad you came on. I'm glad we were able to talk.
Me too. Thanks.